God. Why do you always have to start something off like that at the beginning?
Always. You want to start again?
Do that, then I gotta edit that shit out.
Oh, so you have to edit the SHIT word out, but broads is bad.
Well, but you referred it to our co-host.
Yeah, but
this
is purely satirical. Dominic is a man of irreproachable dignity and character. I say it only because it is in the absurd.
I thought he was going to be in your backyard.
I think that's next week.
Really?
We're going to hang out. We're going to bro down. We're going to eat boiled peanuts, I think.
Oh, yeah. I bought some peanuts. Yeah. I bought some peanuts.
You bought you don't just buy peanuts in a bag and boil them. It's got to be different kinds of. It's a different.
Yeah, I read up on it, Beck. I read up. I did my homework.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, you're a food guy.
I'm a food guy. Come on, I know.
So what are we doing today? What's going on?
I proved it the other day. Anyways, we have a great show lined up again to everyone else. It's not a podcast, by the way, Beck. We are missing our other co-host. He's out there. I thought he was sheep. Is it
shearing? Shoring?
Yeah, I was trying to get that out. Anyways, he's missing in Florida somewhere. I hope he's okay.
Well, I don't think he's missing. I think he's not missing anything.
No, he's missing a great show tonight because this is a subject I think is going to be awesome to talk about a little bit. And also the guest is incredible. We got to meet him a little bit earlier. And I'm so excited about the conversation we're going to have on his new book.
Who's the guest today?
Who's our guest? Well, why do you do that? Why do you ruin the sequence?
Because I'm terrible.
How's your ADHD today?
I don't know. How's yours?
Mine's through the roof. I am also drinking Dr. Pepper because I'm supporting our brotherhood.
Carbonated prune juice, got it.
And I also mixed in a little bit of caffeine.
What time is it where you're at? Are you a couple hours behind me?
Yeah, it's 7:00. It's
giddy
up time. Yeah. So, anyways, we have a gentleman on. I was going to introduce him when he comes on. It's kind of the
I was like a teaser.
Yeah. Should we go live? Do you want to go live too? His story's so good.
Are you willing to go live with me?
I'm up
Let's do it. Let's do it. Bill O'Reilly. I just want to inject that. We'll do it live. Let's go.
There we go. We're live. Do it live. So wait a second. There we go. Say hi to all our fans. Our fan. Hello, fan.
Fan of one.
The fan of one.
Fan of one.
Anyways, as this is going to be a very good conversation, so please sit back, enjoy. I'm going to learn lots. I feel like we've taken 3 incredible people and putting them in a small tin crate and shaking it, and I think it's going to be pretty cool.
I did that with cats once. It wasn't good.
Did you do?
No, I would never forget.
I was trying not to. Remember how every show I've been doing an intro and I somehow insult the last guests?
Yes.
To do that. I'm working on that.
Phone.
Oh, man, you must have had a Red Bull today. Beck?
About that.
Did you have a Red Bull?
I don't drink Red Bull. I'm not allowed. I am not allowed. Hey, I have a quick question before we get them on. I was telling you about the idea. We should have like a regular food trivia question when people come on. Like that was fun with Bill.
Yeah, it was last night.
I thought that was kind of
What do you want tonight?
All right, I'll drum one up.
Because the guest is in LA, so maybe something California.
Okay, well, we'll do that.
Yeah, I can. Well, I was pretty good though on those trivia yesterday too.
Yeah, you're knocked out of the park. All right, let's get up.
It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, right. That green room is lonely.
Okay, so let's. So we usually go and say something, and then we do the intro. So do you want to do that?
Yeah, go for it.
What was that? What was this?
Oh no, that was my rah-rah.
Does it mean the hurry up signal?
No, I was rah-rah because I'm so excited. Wow. See, Dominic balances this out. This doesn't work.
I know this doesn't work. All right, let's go. We'll be right back. Here we go.
Yeah, we're
I like
live.
how it just cuts right off. Welcome, Steve, to Late Night Restaurant Show. Tonight we're going to call it the Late Night Catering Show, or Late Night Steve Show.
Thank
Whatever
you.
we want.
Full swat, Steve.
Watching your guys' intro, like you said that Dominic balances you out, and not having been on your podcast before, and just watching the two of you, I was like, these guys either need like a full on like mystic Deepak Chopra-esque like full on like yoga meditation teacher, or they need like the most
Ayahuasca.
alpha type referee that's like, you quiet, you talk.
You're not wrong.
That
No,
like
not at all.
that
Nope.
was crazy. Like, as someone who has ADHD, I was like ADHD out watching the two of you guys accomplish nothing
Nothing.
conversationally.
Nothing
Zero.
valuable at all.
That conversation went nowhere.
None.
And I was like, oh my God, am I about to have 60 minutes of
Oh my God.
just interruptions where like 50 topics are
Oh.
started and then like nothing gets discussed?
Now you
That
got a
makes
friend
me
named Dave in the Valley who asked us to punk you on a fake podcast that doesn't exist.
That's pretty much all our shows there, Steve. We really don't
Okay.
get to. Really, we
Okay.
try. We
He
try.
didn't
don't
read
we?
ahead.
Yeah.
What? What did you say?
They said he didn't read ahead.
No, he
He
didn't.
was seeing the signs. No, we're gonna take great care of you.
Yeah.
That's a great summary, though. I love that.
Thank you. So here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I just want to put this out as a disclaimer, because we don't know each other well enough to be able to read nonverbal cues.
Ooh.
So when you guys are interrupting each other like every 3 seconds, or interrupting me, I'm just going to go like super quiet, and I'll try to have a smile on my face, but I'm not going to cannonball in with like a third interruption. I'll just go quiet and know that I'm not at all vibing or pouting. I'm just sort of letting two ADHDers rumble it out without adding a third.
Oh my
That was
God.
awesome. That was awesome.
What do you do twice a week at night there, Steve? Do you want to join us more often? It's like, might have found our missing link.
My face hurts. I can't do this.
Dominic,
It's too
sorry, buddy. Sorry.
early. So, Steve, so you're out in California. Let's just get the
Yes,
ball
that's
rolling.
good
You
to
know,
know.
it's because this is about you, not us, and we're thankful to have you here. So you're LA caterer, right? You're on the catering scene there. And how long you been out there doing this?
I came to LA in 92. I spent 4 years at college. I went to Pepperdine. So I've been in LA since 1992. I just turned 50. My first restaurant job was when I was 14. So I've been in the industry for 36 years, and for the last 18 of those years, I have been running my business. So I started my first business, which is Room 40. I started that in 2007. And caterers kind of cut their teeth on relationships with event venues and event planners.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working at different event venues, and I kind of wanted to have my own. And so I was able to open our first event venue, the Fig House, and then started opening more sort of creative event spaces. So yeah, I've been out in LA since 92, and I've been owning and running my business since 2007.
It seems like when you are in the catering world, it seems like one thing bumps you to the next bigger thing, or this kind of cascading effect. Is that kind of how it worked for you when you started out?
Yeah. LA is a very for as much urban sprawl as there is in the absence of a city center, LA is actually a very small town in terms of the different concentric circles. And so once you get in a circle from the catering space, you then start getting more jobs within that space. You know, you mentioned that you were catering for entertainment. So like, yeah, we do a ton of entertainment, and then, you know, this production company found out that you did an event at this actor's home, and that
Yep.
and so that just sort of becomes its thing. And then secondarily, brides are incredibly viral. They love posting pictures about their weddings, and
Here's my guy.
yeah, here's my guy. And so, you know, if you get into that sort of creative, aesthetically driven LA wedding space that has kind of like a food centric sort of chef driven program with a high level of service, you end up catering a lot of weddings, which is great because I don't think there's any industry that is economy proof. Weddings are certainly economy protected, because even when sort of the dollars dry up and we're going to eat at home tonight, we're not going to go out to a restaurant, a couple's still going to have their wedding. So
yeah, baby girls got to get married nice.
Baby girls got to get married. Yeah.
What happened, DJ?
I took a break.
Oh.
No,
I was super compelling.
My computer for some reason went brrr.
While we were talking, I asked Jay a question. I said, what sticks out for you? He said, I've done 1,600 interviews. And I said, what sticks out for you among the guests that you have?
Did I answer that, Steve? I don't know if I answered it.
Yeah, well, you answered it with a negative, and I won't throw any industry under the bus, but you said there's a certain industry that we sometimes have guests.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm probably the only podcast that has fallen asleep in the middle of a podcast. And what I was thinking when Jay just left is that my answers are so boring that he was like, let me just take a nap and I'll circle back with this guy. Yeah. He caters in LA, whatever. Yeah, exactly.
I thought he just got pissed off because he couldn't interrupt.
No, not at all.
You should see the screenshot I got of your face though in the frozen.
That was one.
Steve has brought some levity between the ADHD interrupting podcast hosts and has said, okay, now Jay, you go. Now
my computer said, nope, not going to handle this one.
Computer says no.
Oh, no, I apologize. Sorry about that. No,
You're good.
I actually enjoy, and I said that I've told Beck this many times. I love working with people that are in on the show is people that are in the field and in the industry working, and that experience, you're deep in it. And I just love talking to people about that opposed to the other ones.
Thank you.
There you go. See, I did say the other ones back.
Yeah.
I'm working on insulting my guests.
By accident.
What did you just eat?
I'm doing it on over talk. No, this is actually, we're in New York for Christmas. And this is the single best chocolate I've ever eaten in my life.
Oh, I've seen those before, dude. Didn't you show those to me?
No
before?
chewing allowed. It just like melts. It's like if Willy Wonka could have made a hot cocoa, the version of, like when Veruca eats or whoever chews, no, it's the little girl that chews the bubble gum. Oh, the hot mashed potatoes. Now here comes the gravy. This is like a candy version of a hot cocoa. It is the meltiest, most delicious chocolate I've ever had. I'm not going to tell what it is because that'd be a plug, but oh my God, it's so good.
Okay, back to our guest, Back to our guest. So Steve paused. Let us have a moment. Steve, let's talk about did you get into your book when I was in a pause mode? Did you get into your, okay, let's talk about your new book. Is this a new book, fairly out, brand new?
It is. Yeah. It was published in October.
Okay. So it's just released.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about it. I love the title. My other screen went down, so I don't have it there. Let's talk. What's the title of the book?
How Frequently Jay Forgets Things. With the subtitle, The Most ADHD'd Out Podcast You've Ever Heard. The book is called The Urgent Recovery of Hospitality. And the subtitle is How Rediscovering Generosity Restores a Civil World. There you go. That's the title of the book and the subtitle.
So what like, let's get into the book then. Like, why a book?
Why a book? I think that's a great question. I think there's a lot of books out there. Do you know the most honest answer is that I think so the dedication at the front of the book says, to my younger self, you were lost and confused for so long. Even if no one reads this, I wrote this for you. And so I think,
Shit, let's go.
Brene Brown once said that the longest distance information travels is from our head to our heart, and the way that it makes that journey is through our hands. And I think that the most honest answer for why a book is that I discovered some things that were really inspiring and really convicting for me, with regard to what a lifetime in hospitality had showed me, and how I, as much as I espouse and had espoused certain ideas, I, in some aspects, was guilty of violating my own values. And
How so?
I wanted to move this information from my head to my heart. And I knew that the way to do that, someone once said, more than anything, the writing of a book changes you. It changes the writer. And it has done that, guys. I have definitely felt, I carried this thing for like 6 years, and it felt, obviously there is no vicarious way, even as a father who like caught my babies, there's no vicarious way for a man to understand what it's like to carry a baby. So this analogy is wildly inaccurate and incomplete. But it felt like, in my own sense, sort of carrying this baby for years, that like finally was birthed after 6 years. And
Are
I
you
think
a pen and paper writer, or are you was this
no,
digitally
yeah,
sketched, or you
I
carrying
had to
stuff?
type, yeah. So I think that was the first reason why, is that I wanted to move this information. I wanted to embody this information. I wanted to embody this way of being and metabolize it and sort of knead it into the dough of my life, as opposed to some framework that I, cooked up, that I now was like trying to hawk on every platform that I'm on, but actually just like, can I live these words? And then secondarily, the more I shared these ideas with people, they were like, that's a really big idea. You need to share that. And that wasn't just with like friends that are flattering me. That was with like critical thinkers, other authors, thought leaders. And I finally was like, okay, you can put the imposter syndrome on the back burner for a second. Because anytime you're going to write a book, you're like, who in the hell do you think you are? Unless you're like super established, most humans are like, who am I to write a book? Why are you smiling, Jay?
Well, just because, no, just because you're nailing things that, I like, because, oh my God, not about me. It's all about you. But I was supposed to have a book done this December, and some situations came up and says, you can't do a book. And it drives me crazy, because you're hitting everything that I want to get out as well. Like, it's about this information of, like, I have, like, I think we're on the same kind of path here, of the creativity that you probably have in your mind, and what do you want to do and what do you want to say and stuff like this. I've always had a challenge of getting that out. I wasn't the smartest kid in school. University I was, but not in school, because I struggled. I had to teach myself how to read and write and all those things. All those different things. So when you get the opportunity to do that, it had nothing to do with, hey, I have a book. It actually had to do, one, like to also express what's always been cooped up in me. Like you said, when you said birth, like, man, that's absolutely right. And now I've been told, no, you can't do a book. And I said, I think we'll get into that who and what later, but it is where I had to pause it, and I had to put it on the, back burner, and it drove me crazy. My book is called Alone in Hospitality. And it's about the fact of how we're not we seem like we're, in a family, or how people say, you're on a team, or when you work in restaurants or in hospitality, you're always around people, giving love and care and taking care of people, but you're so much alone. And I think it's that idea of, when you rise to the top in whatever area that you work in, they always say it's lonelier at the top. And I find in hospitality, as much as you have people around you and you're joking and you might have beers after and everything else, there's this aloneness I find in hospitality. So I want to write about it.
It doesn't sound like you guys are too far apart here.
I know, exactly. That's
Common
why
theme-
when I was
common theme.
laughing, Steve, because I was sitting and when you're saying it, you're literally is what is in my head. You were saying, and that's why I laughed.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. But that's exactly what it is. Like I've been cooped up so much over my years of doing this and I found maybe that I really think that's why I started podcasting 5 years ago was the fact to have people on, but also to learn and to also get the courage from them to go and do what I want to do.
Beautiful.
So I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead. It's all about
No,
you.
that's okay.
So
that's
success.
I'm here as your guest to really just midwife a conversation between the two of you. So I'm you guys connect, interrupt or share, and I'll just hold the space. All right. I'm just gonna hold it.
So bring us back, right? So you birthed this beautiful thing in the world, right?
Yes.
And there's a message in it, and it's compelling, though. And you shared a little bit about that, backstage, and I think there's something really meaningful there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. I mentioned to you that that I had these ideas about what hospitality is and what hospitality isn't. And I realize, and I'm in LA. I'm in maybe not the, but I am in an entertainment capital of the world. I am in a place that has mixed hospitality and entertainment and celebrity and empire. And so I had a lot of ideas about how hospitality had been sort of hijacked by a culture of demonstration and sort of performance, and thinking that hospitality and believing that hospitality is much more about an invitation than a demonstration. And I was surfing. I'm a lifelong surfer, and I was sitting on my board this is about 10 years ago, and I was just sort of taking inventory as to where we were as a company, and I was really disgruntled, and I was pissed because we'd been around for years, and I felt like there were other catering companies and other chefs and other restaurateurs that were, just ahead of us. And I was just kind of on shitty committee and just like wishing that we had more notoriety, which is a very vulnerable thing to say, but it's honest. And when I realized that, oh my God, I am in a craft and in an industry that is all about making people feel valued. And I am simultaneously wanting to feel valued myself. And I realized that you can't actually do that. You can't actually try to give value and get value at the exact same time.
Right.
It would sort of be like if I said, okay, guys, hold your breath, and you held your breath. And when you're out of breath, what do you need? You need more breath. But the only way you can get that after you've held your breath is you blow out. Right. You actually have to give away the air that you have to get the next breath that you need. And I just realized that there is a cycle of generosity, that when you are generous with your intentions, when you actually are like, I have enough, I'm good, let me share with you, which was the origin of hospitality. Like we have enough to share with you.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, like let us share. That was what hospitality in its origin was, a generous act. It was a giving act. And because some things have been let in the water of our industry, there's now a lot of taking in that space, and a lot of needing you to witness my skill, my talent. I'd love for you to get your phone out while you're eating and take a picture of the plate. Have you been here before? Well, here's how the chef likes you to order. Just all of these things that really created almost this like both sides are trying to get something out of the interaction. And it's kind of created like a vicious cycle in this space that's meant to be a virtuous cycle. And what I realized is that it's not about being altruistic, right? We're all humans. We all want to feel like we got value and we were valued. It's about being strategic. It's about realizing that the way that I get what it is that I'm looking for is to give what I need. So if I want to feel, if I'm serving you guys and I want, of course, as a human, I want Jay for you to be like, oh man, this was awesome. And Michael, for you to just be like, man, I really appreciate this. If I'm trying to get that from you, the entire interaction, this is just not how the ecology of generosity works,
Yeah. That's a dopamine hit.
What's that?
That's a dopamine hit. Give me some validation, quick.
Yeah, give me some validation.
Yeah.
So it's like the way we get that validation is by being generous, because when we are the recipients of generosity, we can't help but return it.
Do you think there's there's kind of a hook here, though, right? We're talking about a commercial enterprise in most cases, and in order to gain more commerce, there is a showman aspect that brings that commerce in more, right? We said in the green room, it's not altruism, it's advertising, and it is, right? So some of this, I think there's a little balance, right? Right.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that showmanship is the key factor.
Narcissism isn't showmanship, and I'll definitely say yes. That is the difference, right?
So I think showmanship is like, I think there's an aspect to commerce that is absolutely showmanship.
Yeah.
Exhibit A being the entertainment industry, right?
Sure.
So I don't think that I don't think there's any sort of moral issue with showmanship. I just think let's call showmanship what it is. It's showmanship.
Yeah.
And calling hospitality when it's really showmanship, maybe it's an issue of language. Maybe it's, I won't say which restaurant that it was, because we would all know it and it's world renowned. But when I booked the reservation, it said the show begins at 7 p.m. And I was like, oh, is this a show or is this a meal?
Right.
Oh, wow.
So, and again, Michael, I mean, I think you bring up a good point. It's like, how do you drive commerce? How do you increase revenue? Well, there's a showmanship aspect. Maybe in certain fields, but I think there's also an argument to be made that some fields are really service oriented, or they are meant to meet your needs in the currency with which you have those needs met. And in being so attuned and astute and good at providing you your specific solution, my commerce grows. And there was no showmanship involved. I don't know.
I think it's interesting. Like if we think like QSR brands, I would think that's more transactional. But but if you look at Chick-fil-A's model, just call it out, right? They go over that was at your pleasure, or what's the word? They say the phrase every time. It's the gratitude phrase after every interaction. It's our pleasure, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And they make you feel welcome. They find that moment to grab you that cup to fill it up deliberately when you're there. They'll seek you out and find you. There's a little bit of the balance of like, if you welcome somebody into your restaurant, you provide the feeling of home, comfort, and giving. Is it that, or is that you're buying that experience? And so there might be a difference between you're coming to my house. We welcoming you as my family, my guests. I'm pouring my blood, well, hopefully no blood, but my everything, all my love I'm pouring into this meal I'm making for you, and I'm giving you this with all my heart, with only expectations of delight and smiling faces and great conversations, right? That's my payoff.
And if you did that for me, if you just set the intention and set the table and set the container for me, the way that you just described, going, Michael, I'm sorry, the vinaigrette I think is broken, or how do you define medium rare? Because my medium rare, like, it wouldn't enter my mind.
Right. The advent of the Karen does not hit.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I think that in having taking, and we would never think of it like that. We would never call it that. But in
Right.
trying to get something from the interaction with the customer, we don't actually realize it. We don't realize that we're actually transforming the mindset of the customer, and we begin to turn the customer into a critic, because when I am trying to get something from you, get your accolades, get your affirmation, get your acknowledgement, you shift from going, what can I share? What can I bring? You start asking, am I impressed? Am I getting value out of this? What do I think about this? And when your questions change, your lens is your perspective.
I feel that. I do feel that you're giving away kind of, I'm not say power, but you're giving something away in this moment. Like you now have license to say everything and anything to me because you're paying me money.
Yes.
Right. And in that is the pitfall of, well, somebody's going to treat you like crap just because they want it.
Yeah. And it's funny. Right? It's funny that you're saying this. My mind's going a couple different places. In the book, I talk about the power struggle between the provider and the receiver. And I think that's a lot of what's happened, is that there is this power struggle where, 2 decades ago, we had, the maxim, the customer is always right. And for the last 15 years, it's like the chef is always right. And, it's a fight of like, who's right?
Yeah.
And I still think that there can be a transference of money while having a more service-oriented, more of an economy of us as opposed to an economy of me. Because if I'm in this podcast thinking about me and what I can get by way of attention and validation and appreciation from you guys, and you guys are in this podcast thinking about you guys and what can you guys get out of this, it's like the energy amongst us is just different.
Yeah.
Where do you guys want to go in conversation? Okay. So
I want to crash into them.
It's so funny. So I totally freaked you guys out because you're like totally pausing and never interrupting.
Here. This is great.
You cured us, Steve.
I have literally impacted the culture of your podcast. I love it. You guys are like, what should we talk about next? Well, let's take a breath.
And now for a commercial from our sponsors.
Yeah, exactly.
What I was going to say when you mentioned Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
We are in Pasadena, on the border of Altadena, a half mile up on my street, is gone, like literally gone. My daughter's best friend's house is gone. My wife's best friend's house is gone. It's literally gone. There was 9,000 structures in Altadena that were wiped out. We saw fire through our windows, ran through our house, grabbing stuff. And luckily our home was spared. But it's not something you're seeing on like the news, that feels distant, when it's like homes that we're in often, whatever. Anyway, so we have started this, we're calling it Family Meal Fridays, where we are making family meals for displaced families. Where every Friday, for as long as we have donations and people supporting this meal fund, we're going to send meals to these families because they're going to be displaced for like 2 years. And long after the news cycle has changed and people are thinking about another tragedy, these families are still going to be in guest houses and hotel rooms and, apartments an hour away. All this to say, I've just been trying to think, what else can I do for these families? And I had spoken at Chick-fil-A's headquarters, I don't know, like a year and a half ago, out in Georgia. And so I called them. And to your point about Chick-fil-A's generosity and their culture, they have gotten into the ring. They are donating 300 meals every Tuesday. I'm calling Room 40's meals. I'm calling Family Meal Fridays. I'm calling Chick-fil-A's meals Casual Tuesdays. And for the next 5 to 8 weeks, Chick-fil-A is coming to the Room 40 kitchen, bringing 300 meals for over 75 to 80 families, just giving away family meals.
Wow!
Just as like
Chick-fil-A the rescue, love it.
What's that?
It said Chick-fil-A to the rescue. I love it.
Yeah, it's just like generosity and kindness. I just wanted to say that generosity and kindness really is woven into, their model. And
Mhm.
I had a great conversation with one of the guys from corporate. I like asked him all the hard questions. I asked him about the optics of, and some of the things that they've been accused of and the validity of that. And we like, to your point about how in moments of tragedy, people's ideologies and people's camps sort of fade away and you just are dealing with the human. Living in LA, there's a Chick-fil-A in some pockets
Mhm.
is a little bit radioactive. And
Oh, hate chicken. I've heard it.
what's that?
I've heard it called hate chicken in certain
Yeah.
pockets down there, right?
So to
Serious?
It's
have
nothing like
someone
that. Yeah.
from headquarters in my house, who, by the way, is trying to solve the logistics of how his organization can just give away a ton of food. And to just have like a human conversation and to be able to ask hard questions, it was really, really cool. I am now at the end of my point, and I'd like to create a moment of silence for you guys to think amongst yourselves as to what the next question will be,
Minds are blown.
so that no one will interrupt.
Well, actually, I want to pile on for anybody watching this with a brand. Your name should be out there too. If you're a brand of significance, your name should be out there too. You should be feeding people in the communities where they're feeling this. You make money there. You should be doing something too.
Thank you for saying that. I will say, Michael, that the only way, Jay said he used to work for Cisco. Cisco is one of our
No,
purveyors.
I still do. I still do.
Surprise, Cisco! No.
The only way that we've been able to accomplish this is through donations, because like I'm not Wolfgang Puck. I can't just underwrite. I don't have the margin to be like, well, I'll send, like, I'm not Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Chick-fil-A can afford to send 300 meals. I mean, that is like the stroke of a pen. I'm a boutique small business in LA that does fancy schmancy catering and has some cool event venues. I can't afford to feed 300 people a week just at my own cost.
Right.
So I've had some purveyors that have donated some food. And then simultaneously, we've set up a GoFundMe account for people that are like, I want to help these families. What can I do? Because they're not accepting clothes. We're like, well, you can put money into this account and every single penny goes to feeding these families. So that's the only thing, is that I so appreciate the call out and the mic drop of like, if you are in LA, if you're in the food business, you need to be supporting. All I will say is that there's been times where I've wanted to do more, but I just couldn't because of the dollars. And I just wanted to be honest, because I didn't want to misrepresent that we're just, capable of just absorbing all of this cost. We are being generous because of the generosity of others.
If more people just took a little ownership of their corner, not everything.
Yeah.
Right. Takes just a little, an anthill can move mountains if they all work together. And so it's pointing fingers and talking the story and best wishes, whatever, bring a can, stop by, drop something off.
Totally.
Steve, how long does it take? How long are they predicting the community to come back to somewhat what it's like in the past? Is it a long?
Know, man.
You said 2 years.
I'd be the wrong guy to ask. I'm saying that from a guy that's like, built event venues and done construction and dealt with LA County building inspectors and entitlement programs and permitting. But I have no clue. Like, I mean, when these things happen, it's like, it's not just homes. It's like the dry cleaner that you went to, the grocery store, the pet store, so like the community's wiped out. So I don't really know, like, when does a town that no longer exists come back? Like, I don't know. I've never seen this before. Typically the giant fires are largely forest fires with minimal structures.
Pasadena Hills or something.
But this is like everything's gone. So I'm not enough of a community planner to know when it comes back. I think if you've lost your home and number one, you're fighting with your insurance company because the cost to rebuild when you got your home insurance has probably, radically changed since you got it. Secondarily, your wealth is gone because you might have a cost to rebuild a home that's $800,000, but your home was worth $3 million. So you've lost your equity. You're still, I don't know if you guys knew this, you still have to pay a mortgage on a burnt down home.
Jeez.
So then you've got to get like an architect, and then you've got to get, building permits, and then you've got to find a general contractor. And then,
And they're going to oversteer on the course correction on anything that might have caused the fire. So you can guarantee a whole new layer of regulations will be put in on any of these permits and codes and building standards as well. So it's going to be more red tape to get it done.
It's a very interesting point. Yeah, there was a fire. I think it was in Florida, Michael. I think there was a fire at a club, and a lot of people died. I think 300 people.
Yeah, that was Miami, I think.
In Miami. And since that time, when I open an event venue, the entitlement zoning is assembly, right? Because it's like 200 people are assembling and you're serving alcohol.
Yeah.
The ability to get a liquor license with an assembly entitlement, man, since that event, it is really, really, really hard. So I think it's interesting that in response, laws change.
Yeah, we like to react.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but it just is. I'm not necessarily making a comment or a commentary, but I think you bring up a really good point that regulation on electrical is going to probably change. Building code's going to change in Altadena on electrical because of these fires, but
or proximity of hedges or trees.
Yes.
It's all environmental.
Setbacks, all that
environmental
stuff.
will come in.
Yeah.
Environmental will be a big part of it as well, right? So,
yeah.
So
Let's
Steve,
call this the late night construction and entitlement show, and just talk building code for the rest of the night.
My actual question, I actually want to take it a different direction here because I think we shared up before we came in here about some beautiful stuff that happened.
Yeah, let's get it. I was actually
right, like when there's a disaster, and we felt this in Florida. I shared with you that when our neighbors' houses were wiped out, the first thing is people came out and sought each other out to help them.
It's amazing.
And you're a manifestation of that in California, and there's so many stories of people that are doing similar things in their corners as well. You mentioned the little boy that wrote the little note to you too, right? Like,
yeah, man,
that's got to change you.
Oh my God. We broke. I broke down crying. My wife broke down crying. He made two, and one our chef put up in the kitchen, and then one I brought home. But it's these, it's those 6-year-old drawings that you would see, in the handwriting. It was all different. And it just said, "Your food is yummy. Our house burned. BURND." And that little typical picture of a house with flame on top of the house. And my God, that hit me more than any email of how amazing your catering was. Like that, like I will save that note for the rest of my life. And you're right. It's been so, like, all these families have been coming out of the woodwork going, "We heard you're doing this. We want to volunteer to deliver the meals." Because we can't use like a third-party delivery. There's no money, So we're not like, Uber Eats is not delivering these family meals. It's families that didn't lose their homes delivering to families that did. And so these kids are showing up, coming with their parents to deliver the bags to other kids that lost their homes. And you're right, man. It's just beautiful. And it reminds you that there is a common humanity in us, that when tapped is just, it's so beautiful, and I talk a lot about that in the book, that when we create virtuous cycles, it's that juicy, sticky feeling where you just can't place it, but it's what happens in a concert when everybody's hands are in the air, and a trucker from Oklahoma is at a Chris Stapleton concert, and there's a teacher from Los Angeles, and she's standing next to him, and they're both just screaming White Horse or Arkansas at the top of their lungs, and would have nothing in common ideologically, but something about that moment has brought something out of them, And in that moment, that beautiful thing in them connected to the beautiful thing that was happening collectively, and magic happened. And something emerged. And that, I geek out on that. I geek out on value creation, because we have been so obsessed with value extraction. How can I get value out of this moment? How can I get value out of this interaction? But man, value creation, when you get into that generative space where something beautiful in me connects with something beautiful in you, and that brings out something beautiful in Jay, then there's generativity and something emerges, a new idea, a concept, a conversation. And I love that stuff.
Do you think it's because in those moments you're removing status, right? There's no status, there's no truck driver, there's no school teacher.
No.
There's no money. It's pure.
It's pure. It's pure.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve, to interrupt you on that. I think it's beautiful, actually. Value creation, because I think a lot of the times when I do a lot with marketing for restaurants and for businesses. And one of the things that we always talk about is this pure, authentic content that you produce. And I think sometimes people don't understand that. I know it sounds odd sometimes when you say just be yourself, or create content that just comes from the heart, or just, don't be so scripted.
Or our buddy Sean Walsh says, "Be the show, not the commercial."
Try not to say Sean's name.
I know, but I did falls in line.
Shout out. But the thing is, we all love Sean, but it's the point of this value creation is that, right? It's about, I always say, it's dropping the flags, it's dropping what we have, and going out with this purity. And I find it so interesting that you say this value creation, because that's what I want people to do, to create the value by being just yourself, and not this facade we carry when we are either doing a post for social media, or we're creating content for a restaurant, all these different things. Like, you look at these videos and they're so scripted, we don't believe them. And I find it so interesting that we've almost made a full circle, where we're coming back now to where just being yourself. Where did it say that you had to go and, create this act, like almost like an act in a sense, to create content or create creations and value and stuff like this? Now you're making a full circle and say, you know what, just be yourself. And I find it so fascinating. That's one of the best things I've heard in a long time. Value creation. So we want to create value, just be yourself.
Totally. I think.
Beck, is that okay, Beck?
I think it's fantastic.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Thanks.
I think that if I was struggling, and I have a ton of struggles, if I was struggling right now in this moment, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to crack the code on how to increase my, market share in my restaurant, and you came to me and you said, Steve, just be yourself. That would be confusing to me, because I am lots of different versions of myself throughout the day, and I'm trying to be myself, Jay. I'm really trying right now, and I don't know what version of myself you want. And so one of the things, and I actually talk about this in the book, is because, like, the first part of the book, I introduced these two cycles. The vicious cycle, we call it the vicious cycle of entitlement, the virtuous cycle of generosity. And we talk about hosting as a universal space. Everybody in the planet is a host. Hosting is just the space between someone who's prepared something and someone who's receiving it. So you could have prepared an agenda, a coffee, a design, a strategic plan. Everyone's a host. The question is, what intention did you enter the hosting space? So the first part of the book, I kind of unpack that. The second part of the book is then, okay, so how do you do it? And the very first, it's this 4 framework thing. And the very first thing we talk about is we say, speak the good. And here's my point in response to just be yourself. I think hospitality starts with us. I don't think that I can actually make you feel at home until I'm at home with myself. Because if I'm constantly like looking at you and going, do you like this? Or like, Are you happy with this? And
Buzz
this
off. I
person
want to
messed up.
relax.
What's that?
Like, buzz off. I want to
Yeah,
relax and enjoy
yeah,
this.
dude,
Yeah.
just be yourself.
Yeah.
But I'm not at home with myself. I don't know if I like myself. I don't
Mm.
know, right? And so one of the things we say is speak the good. And
Mm.
I talk about the fact that we have these monkey brains that have 10,000 thoughts a day just screaming at us all the time. This is not about thinking a good thought. It's about actually speaking it, because I know for me, in the pursuit of excellence and in a business that is driving excellence and continuous improvement and has a high level of expectation, I have used berating myself and driving myself as fuel for the pursuit of excellence. And there's a 10-foot thick filter on my mouth, and the arsenal of attack that I generate inside, I would never do that in
Oh
a
God, no.
leadership perspective. And I'm like, hey, Michael, you're doing such a great job. Jay, you guys are great. And then inside, I'm like, you're such an idiot, right?
Yep.
And
That's Dominic. Usually just comes out and says it.
and I actually don't think that we can create long-term sustained involvement in a lifelong way of making other people feel at home when we're just berating ourselves internally. And so one of the things that we talk about to be more ourselves and more comfortable, this is all in response to you saying just be yourself, is we actually say speak kindly to yourself. And every time as a leader you're like, hey, great job, I tell my team, go away and say under your breath, you're a good leader. You're doing a good job at life. Hey, you're a good man. You're a good dad. You're a good coach.
You gotta let yourself off the hook.
What's that?
Gotta let yourself off the hook too. Like,
It's
we're
not
mean
letting
to
yourself off
ourselves.
the hook. It's not creating space for mediocrity. We've misinterpreted like encouragement as a pass for mediocrity and complacence. And like the moment that we give ourselves an attaboy, it's like, well, maybe I'm settling for mediocrity. And it's like, no, there's a difference between one-time achievement and a long life and a long tail of sustained growth. And if you look at a little kid when they're learning how to walk and they're stumbling, no one's like, you idiot, get your shit together. They're like,
you got it. You're awesome. Let's
like,
go. Yeah.
You're doing it. And
Yeah.
and that's how you that's the long path of growth.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that being ourselves is really important. And I love that that's what you're telling your clients, Jay. And I think with the saturation of messages and content that we have, and as distracted as we are, I think it's hard to know what version of ourselves we should be. And I think we begin to discover that by just noticing the good and speaking the good and being like, hey, you did a good job there. And I think that little self-interaction by self-interaction, we just become a little more comfortable in our skin.
I like that.
Is that a pause moment there again?
No, that was my
I
thoughtful
think he
pause.
paused.
No, I actually thoughtfully paused.
This is incredible.
Yeah. No, the words and language we use matters internally and externally.
It does.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. If we hear it all day long, believe that you're going to believe some of what you say to yourself even, right?
Totally.
Absolutely important, especially as a leader. And if you
Totally.
rate people around you, or, I mean, it's like that, like you said, little kid, but that attaboy, that's a celebration of movement. Keep going. You got this. Let's go. Right?
That's it.
It's a step. You're stepping in the right direction. I'm not handing you a trophy. I'm giving you encouragement and celebrating the thing that you're doing and that you can do that better and go further.
That's right.
Steve, do you find that it's like, I find it fascinating, and maybe this is wrong though, is that we lose that as we get older?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, that parenting is, do either of you guys have kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I say it's brutal and beautiful. And I think the brutal part and the sad part is watching the innocence get polished off and watching what happens as meanness and messages and as this like, oh, maybe I'm ... And because when they're young, kids are just like, someone has said that like being a kid is like being on a non-stop mushroom trip. Everything is just beautiful. Everything is
We're
just
all
like,
connected. It's great.
this is amazing. you know? Um, and watching that, yeah, Jay,
Yeah.
like as they get older, just this like this complexity and sometimes this melancholy, which is why something, I set my priorities. I try to do it daily, but I certainly do it annually. But for each priority, I then have a practice. And with regard to my priority in marriage and family, my 3 practices are, this is way too much information, but it is tone consciousness, encouraging words, and quality time without expectation. And I think that if we are just sources of encouraging words and we're just that voice, that constant voice of encouragement, I think that the voice in our kids' heads, I think the voice inside most of our heads is the voice that we heard outside of our heads in our formative years.
Oh, sure.
And so tragically, a lot of us are reparenting ourselves.
Yes.
And so I think that as fathers, the 3 of us have an opportunity to like become the echo in our children's heads, so that it does not wear off as much, like you said, Jay, like so that they begin to build the agency when harshness comes, when meanness comes, they can be like, I don't think that has anything to do with me,
Yeah. And you said tone conscious. I don't think enough people are. Like they yell in a very frightening way.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's traumatic.
It's traumatic.
Especially when you're little and somebody's big and the words out of their mouth were all loving and cooing, and then all of a sudden this bipolar rage monster may come out, or something very disruptive and terrifying.
Yes.
Right? That's like when you say when you if you have to discipline a dog, you don't do it with your hand. Newspaper, something that's loud makes noise, but you don't want to relate love.
Can I share something with you guys?
Yeah.
On that. Okay. So, and I'll say this because I don't think I've ever told you, Beck. It's in my book. So a lot of people ask me, and this is not about me. I just want to reference because I think it ties into what you were saying earlier, Steve, a few seconds ago there, is that like a lot of people ask me like, why do you do what you do? Or why do you love this industry so much? I had that question. Matt Rolfe asked me that a couple of years ago. I think it was about 3 years ago. And he goes, Jay, like, why do you like this industry so much that every night you're doing podcasts, and we were doing one a day at the time. And like yourself, Steve, this is my 35th year in the industry. And he goes like, so why do you love the industry so much? You help so many people and all these other things with what I do. And I said, I don't know. So we peeled it apart. I grew up in a house of abuse with verbal abuse, screaming. Parents should have been divorced a million times, but they were, I was the last kid out of 5. 8 years later, I popped out. And after they already had, my brother's 20 years older than me, and those kind of things, right? So we actually couldn't figure out like why I like this industry. But this becomes a really interesting part to it after we peeled the onion apart, is that on Fridays and Saturdays, we would go to restaurants and they couldn't fight in a restaurant.
Wow.
So restaurant became my safe haven.
Yes.
So still to this day, no matter if it's McDonald's or Subway or a fine dining place where, or a casual restaurant I get to travel, I feel safe in a restaurant. So back to the whole thing. I'm not kidding you. It's weird. People would be like, have you ever changed when we're here? Like you'll see it. I actually physically feel like I'm at home. It is weird. Where like on Sundays, I have to close the blinds because it was the day after 2 fighting nights and those kind of things. My kids are always bugging me like, Dad, why do you have to close the blinds? Because I can't handle Sundays. I really can't. I have to kind of cocoon myself. But I can go into a restaurant, no matter where or what, doesn't matter. And I feel home, feel comfortable because it's safe. It's a safe being. So we found that out. And that's why when I do what I do and I do this stuff and I coach, lots and lots of restaurants every week and I, write as much as I can about the industry, it's dead serious because I find that the industry literally saved me because it was the place I had to go to escape this. Right. And it's in the book about, I can still smell the booths, that smell from a booth, or the cheap, the fake mink coat my mom had and I used as a pillow. And then if they ordered coffee, it was longer we stayed there because those days, restaurants, you're like there for an hour and a half to 2 hours. If they, for some reason, got dessert, cha-ching, or they had company come and sit with us, that was a bonus. That meant more longer time for me. So when well, now everyone knows about that, but I wanted to put that out there because you said that and it triggered. It was like, yeah, that's because I do what I do. And when people say this whole thing that they do it for, accolades or they do it because they make money, all that, hey, that's fine. I don't really care. I do it because it's dead seriously means the world to me. So when this tariff thing that we're going through right now with the United States, when we found out about November, I haven't slept in months because I know the devastation it does to something that I care so much about. And then the other day we got like a reprieve for 30 days. I actually slept that night and I'm still not sleeping because I know what's coming in 27 days. So I just want to share that with you because that's how deep this industry means to me.
What do you think the whole tariff thing, Steve?
Before, there's just no way, dude, that I could witness that kind of vulnerability and just pivot.
Sorry, I am
out of it.
Sorry, yes,
Yeah.
I'm so
sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to.
No,
you're
Steve
fine.
is actually 100% right.
When you say I didn't mean to, like I'm honored by that. Like I'm so touched by you sharing that, Jay. Like that was super sacred, and I felt it when you said I feel safe in restaurants.
And you probably do you feel safe when you're in your kitchen and you're got your team around you and you're doing these things? You probably feel that safe as well. Beck, you feel safe in your romper room.
I feel safe where my wife and my kids are.
There we go. See, yeah.
Home is that.
That's beautiful.
Right.
You know what sucks?
What you're describing is home.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, you know what sucks though, is when you have to force yourself to feel safe. That's what sucks.
Do you think you can force yourself to feel safe, or do you think you fake? I don't know. Like, I can't imagine forcing myself to feel anything and that being effective. Can feelings be forced?
I don't know.
I think you kind of force a moment to have a feeling or go into a place to hope you'll feel that. Like I get there and maybe I'll feel better, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's
yeah. Well, I just really appreciated that vulnerability, and you're right. This is not about you. This is about me. We should be spending.
My defensive mechanism is either to pivot or go humorous when it gets real. So sorry about that.
But since you just hijacked, I don't know how long that was.
Yeah, literally.
Was that like half? We'll cut it out. We'll cut it out.
No, it was authentic. It's the whole point of this.
So beautiful, bro. And I think that's what these something just emerged. Like we talked about, like emergence and value creation. So somehow in this conversation, okay, so let me ask you a question. And Michael, maybe you answer it. Would you say, as his co-host, that was some degree of more vulnerability than he often shows up with in other episodes?
Well, yeah, 100%. But that's a bad word. And I think format says how deep, how open and vulnerable are we in these, and I think it's absolutely a beautiful thing. And I think by way of value, like why would somebody, if I'm thinking from a listener or viewer standpoint, like why would somebody quote tune in, right? I don't think people are tuning in for people to look at mirrors and watch them look at mirrors, right? No, hey, look how
Yeah.
great I am. Oh, I'm amazing. I do all this stuff,
Exactly.
right? They tune in because they want to feel something that they connect with as human. Go, there's somebody else like me out there,
Yeah.
and they found some useful ways to manage the shit that they're going through, or to be able to find shelter in a restaurant. And that is, if we're talking authenticity, that is the authenticity.
That's super compelling.
That is
Yeah,
all. That is all we're trying to get to. And the
absolutely.
showmanship and the acts is everything trying to get to that same place that happens right here. Now, what you called me out for, Stephen, you're 100% right to do it, is I immediately pivoted to something else because I was uncomfortable with the moment being
Were
too
you?
real. It's real. No, absolutely. I was like, that was my defensive mechanism. I also come from a very
Yeah.
tough background. And I also, you would argue that, and they say that some of the comorbidities for people who have ADHD are these very traumatic upbringings, right? And so, no, I think this is the essence of why somebody would even care.
Agreed. Like, I think the moment, what I was going to say was value was created in the conversation. The value that was created was that vulnerability that you just brought. Because I guarantee you, bro, when you were like, I feel safe in restaurants, I guarantee you that your listeners just went like they just like tuned in because that was vulnerable. And I think that's one of the cool things that happens when you're focused more on value creation as
Yeah.
opposed to value extraction. If the three of us were each in this conversation polishing our trophies and going, yeah, but do you see mine? That's just not super interesting, right? So I think and listen, value extraction, it has to happen. We have to hunt, we have to gather. But like the giving tree tells us, if all the tree does is just give and give and give, and we don't act, and the boy isn't going, how do trees come to be in the forest? Okay,
Right.
so like I'm gonna harvest this tree, but how's the next tree going to exist?
You dropped
That's
some
when
Shel
we just
Silverstein on
we
us.
suck the life out of a thing, whether it's sucking life out of a conversation or out of a podcast or out of a moment at a restaurant. So I really appreciated you sharing, and I identify with it, both with what you both said. As someone that has ADHD, and had a super difficult upbringing, and really difficult formative years, and I find that when I'm vulnerable and when I'm authentic, it just the connections are just like you're just quicker.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because this is the first time I've been on with three people or two other people like myself and had this conversation. So I'm late in life finding out about this. I've been told my whole life I have it, right? And just thought all the aspects I thought were my unique personality were just manifestations of this one thing that I enjoy, right? And the thing that I found out in the last year was about the mask, the one we wear to protect ourselves around other people, the one that we wear around the critical adults that say, don't do this, don't say that, don't be this. Be that person and pretend you're that person so you can get through your day to day with neurotypicals. And in the last year, I said, you know what, I'm going to put down the mask. I'm going to throw caution to the wind and see. I'm going to start my own business, and I'm going to do this in a way that I'm not going to wear the mask and, excuse the language, I'm going to let my freak flag fly. Live with 100% authenticity. And for anybody that's thought about it, well, you can't do that. It's too much. You're too loud. It's been the most liberating thing in my life that people still, or even more so, have found enjoyment in our relationships. And I think my poor wife, when I'm out with her, I think the most common phrase is that poor woman, because I'm a lot, right? But I turned that lens on my business, and now it's a different thing. I'm loud, I'm garish, but I'm authentically me, and I genuinely have a helpful heart. And it's not about me. It's about bringing that boisterousness and that amplification that naturally we do, but putting that on somebody else and shining lights in corners that need light and flowers that need to grow in some sunlight. And I think there's a fun superpower that folks like us have because we, at least assuming if it's similar, we know what it's like not to have the light on us. right? And I think if we bring those lights to different corners, like the platform you have here, Jay, is something to shine a light on people that deserve it, right? Because we
Mhm.
kind of, at least my experience, we knew what it was like to sit in darkness because we had to put ourselves there even to exist.
Yeah.
You know.
And
Tell
I think
me.
I think
Okay,
sorry,
sorry.
Steve.
Go.
I just want to jump
No, no,
on in
no.
this. Sorry. I
Yeah.
just say like that's why like when I first met Beck and I knew we had this crazy I don't know, we can blame it on the disease we probably have. If it is a disease, I don't fucking know. But it is
My
just
wife
when I
says you
met
can't
him.
call it neurodivergent when like a third of
Okay.
the population has it. She actually
Okay.
calls it the creative gene, and I
I call
was
it a superpower.
I
yeah
call it
like
neurospicy.
I
yeah.
call it
I mean
superpowers.
I don't know. You were saying just in the
Yeah.
last year. I don't know if you're talking about ADHD or the mask, but
No,
like
no, no,
I was
no.
diagnosed with ADHD 10 months ago. Like I'm
Yeah,
50. Like I found
yes.
out.
I'm 50. I'll be 54 next week. I just started figuring this out.
Yeah,
you
like
know, but
we
that's
were in the psychiatrist's office because we found it through the path of my son, who like we found out has ADHD,
yeah.
and they were asking all these questions, and my wife and I are like looking at each other, going like, um. So anyway, you were making
So
the point, Jay, but I
well,
just like
I
I
was just
found
gonna
this
say
out
this. Well,
10 months ago, and have
yeah.
been like, oh my god, yeah.
But wasn't it such a revelation to know there's like this isn't something wrong with me,
Well,
that this is
no, no, no,
me?
no.
Like
But
there's
Beck. You're right though.
yeah.
I grew up being the kid in the corner. They always said the artsy type or the creative. Oh, if you call me creative, I go through the screen. Is that they always say that in a sense, and that's why I got a tattoo that says creativity is genius having fun, right? Because I really believe the people that obviously like I'm a big Steve Jobs fan in a sense of his creativity and the way that people think like that and all these other things is I was tired of being the guy that was the oddball in business because I'm in the business world and in deep in it for many years. And then when I remember back, I actually remember the first time we talked, I was picking up water for a festival we were doing a show at. And I remember talking to him like, man, this guy's got the same vibe. Right? It was like we both get it. We both get this way of just expressing ourselves without, and I don't want to say without the world, like who gives a shit to the world, but it was this way of just enough of this pretending to be this, wearing a suit every day and all this stuff. Um, I love that you are like that, Beck. I always think that things happen for a reason. I think that's why Steve's in our world now too. Um, and why we have Dominic sometimes because maybe that's the other guy on the other shoulder that is Dominic is, but um, I appreciate everything you do, man, and I love the way you are and all the cool things you are because I wouldn't want it a different way. I don't know if I wouldn't want the other back. So I enjoy it, and it's just this really cool to have someone that has that same mindset because when you're in the business world, you stand out kind of like the oddball in the room, and I'm tired of that.
I'm all about the pattern interrupt. That's kind of my brand now. Is just interrupt patterns. Don't. If this is you, be the square peg. You're more recognizable. You know,
Yeah, yeah, like be
and you'll
batshit
find people who like
crazy.
square pegs.
Yeah,
You know?
that's that's why when we developed this show, I remember said to Dominic, "We're going to do it at night, like everyone else does it during the day, right? We're going to do it at night.
We
There's
won't have
no
a light.
rules,
Good.
right? There's no rules, and we're going to celebrate people that change the industry
I
and
love
all
it.
these other things, right? It was really that simple. And I said, everything else that we have in this notion, um, but it is everything that I think, like you do, Beck, is I see the stuff that you create, and I'm like, oh, man, it's right there. It's perfect. Like it's bang on. Um, so I just want to share that with you because when you said that, it's like I totally understand. But I wouldn't want a different Beck. I can't believe that you also, first of all, there's like a Beck 2. You're like Back to the
Back
Future
to
2. I do
Back
like the
to the
second Back
Future.
to the
Yes,
Future.
indeed.
Yeah, yeah.
How you liking it?
Hey, I get it. I get it.
So for
all about you.
context, Steve, I'm starting to write
We gotta wrap. We have
a
to wrap up
byline
because we're gonna
really
have to
quick.
slice this in two.
And when we did our focus group with him, he didn't like the idea of my byline being "Back to the Future" is too cute.
It was. I said, but I get it now.
All right,
Anyways,
all right.
Steve,
Are we wrapping up on the
Steve,
beautiful note?
we got to wrap up, Steve, because this has been one of the best shows.
How
We're not
are
going to
you
see
gonna
the other
wrap
ones.
up? I haven't even talked for like a half an hour. I've been watching you guys talk. You're gonna talk amongst each other for a half an hour, then you'll be like, Steve, we gotta go. Thanks.
All right, we're out of here.
Oh my God. Come join our podcast. Watch us have a conversation with each other, and then we'll have to go.
He's like, we're warming up. We can keep going. The thing is we will.
That's
we will
why. That's how
we
you
will
become number
after
one.
This we're going to talk for another hour, him and I. So
That's
if you
We'll
want
give
to
you
keep
like
going,
an ancillary, like, hey, tell us about what you do. Great. Hey, co-host, one of the things I really like about what you do. Oh yeah, we have a guest on. Steve, we're gonna have to go. Thank you for everything.
he said something, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So anyways,
you wrote some book. I actually don't even know what the title is, but you're out there in La La Land.
Fantastic.
Tell us about what you do, and pitch yourself so that we can like get onto our conversation.
Yeah, you're just a vehicle for us to talk about each other.
I know,
That's
dude.
real. I mean,
know
Jesus.
you're like exploiting yourselves as a podcast by having guests.
It's all just another layer. Dude, your patience with us was epic.
Well, here's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
there was some real moments of beauty in this conversation, and number one, it gets really weird, unnecessarily, when men validate other men, and in just like an authentic way, and don't feel the need to bring humor in or whatever. And I just witnessed a moment between men that was really special. And Jay, the way that you just validated and affirmed and appreciated Michael for how he shows up. My guess is that also would be a moment that your listeners are really drawn to. And as I was watching you guys talk, and Michael, as I was hearing you share about like what taking the mask off looks like, and flying your freak flag, and the fact that you're a lot, and the fact that you have, Captain America area rug with like, figurines behind you.
Bad.
The phrase that I have been telling myself, because the process of being diagnosed with ADHD when you're, 49, and you've lived 49 years of your life thinking one thing about yourself. And one of the phrase that I have used as I've described what this last year is for me, that phrase went through my mind as I was listening to you both talk. And the phrase that came to my mind is, these guys sound like they're at home with themselves. And I have used this phrase that I feel like I'm coming home to myself after being gone a long time. I was an incredibly ostracized, bullied, excluded kid. And so I developed a program to compensate for that. Which we all do. We all develop sort of our compensation programs that have all sorts of different applications and different ways of manifesting, but they're all just, our program for happiness.
Yeah.
But when you were saying, I'm flying my freak flag and I've lowered my mask, I was like, he's coming home to himself. And which I think as hosts of a podcast, really, you guys are hosts and guests. You guys might as well just like, talk amongst yourselves. But as I'm just giving you shit. As podcast hosts in the hospitality industry, I think it's really cool that as hosts, you are at home with yourselves, because there are a lot of thought leaders and content creators in the hospitality industry that they're still really needing to get something as opposed to give something,
Mm-hmm.
What's your advice there?
Yeah.
Steve, like, what is your advice? Like, what do you think gets them there a little more naturally? Like, some people are overly scripted, like long show sheets. You're going to say this, I'm going to say that, and you're going to respond this, or like, what's your feeling there?
What's my feeling on what?
On for the people that are trying to get there, like what should they drop? What's the bag they shouldn't be carrying?
Trying to get to that place of being at home with yourself?
Yeah.
Well, you haven't told me this, but my guess is that what preceded you saying, I'm just going to take my mask off, was some hard days and some hard seasons. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I think that unfortunately, it's usually suffering that causes us to get better and to drop some of our programs. I think we typically have to hit some brick walls before we're like, I keep running into the same brick wall. I wonder if I should change my North Star. For me, I had been trying to climb this ladder for so long, and
Yeah.
I think my ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. I think I need to move my ladder as opposed to figure out how I climb faster and higher. I think I just need to move my ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, what would my advice be? I would say reflect on what is at the very, very, very top of your ladder. And by the top of your ladder, I wouldn't mean what you think is the top, like what's at the end of your ladder. And ask yourself, is my ladder leaning against the right wall? And I think also when you have a worldview that the universe is conspiring in my favor, this is not happening to me, this is happening for me, which sounds very cliche and very trite. But if you actually adopt it as a mantra and you just go, okay, this sucks, but this is happening for me, this is not happening to me. I know the universe is benevolent.
What's trying to teach me?
I know the universe is kind.
Yeah.
I know it is not pissed at me and hostile and trying to browbeat me into a lesson. What is this trying to teach me? I think we get to those mask shedding moments of acceptance. My 2 cents.
It's not a bad amount of change to give. I think that's pretty good. When we talk about the voices in our head, those critics.
Yeah.
To me, it's the voice of some guy that gave me a lot of problems growing up the whole time. Right.
Yeah.
And he just lives there. Now that's the voice I hear when you suck, you're no good.
Yeah.
You'll never make it.
Yeah.
And at some point you get a six, you go over on a late night show, fuck you.
Yeah.
I got this.
And
I can turn that volume down now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am doing a good job at life, and thank you. But there's a different soundtrack in my mind now,
Dude, I would love to jam with you just on this subject sometime. I mean, we have other shows, or even a fucking phone call just to talk to somebody about this stuff, because you and I are finding this out literally at almost the same time. Like I said, I would love to jam, because that roots into some things we go, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
My whole journey in the last year has been, oh, that's why.
Just fucking wait until I tell you about brain scans and what I learned about the relationship between blood flow in areas of my brain that is a combination of ADHD and a combination of trauma, that essentially basically there you could have a lifelong practice of meditation, medication, prayer, chanting, sun worshiping, reading, whatever. But if there's issues of blood flow to the brain, you're literally pouring healing attempts into a bucket with holes in it, because trauma, whether blunt force trauma or lived trauma, affects blood flow to the brain. That was just because the shame that comes from feeling when we found out we had ADHD and we were like, oh my God, that explains this. And then I got this brain mapping done because, of other stuff that I had researched that was illustrative. So I would love to.
Did you have reduced flow in some areas? Or
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Was your frontal lobe as a certain areas, or where?
Both my right and my temporal lobe, which is where your temper is controlled. Both also in the prefrontal cortex. So as if blood flow is reduced in one area, then other parts of the brain are increasing that area. And so, you'll have overactivity in one area, say the amygdala, underactivity in the prefrontal cortex. And so then you're just trying so hard to not do this or to do this, but it's just like pushing a boulder up the hill. And it's actually not an issue of will. It's not an issue of commitment, intention, knowledge. It's an issue of blood.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And it's crazy. So yeah, we could riff on mental health, internal stories, all that
disruptive
stuff.
thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it, man.
Right, well, we do have to wrap up.
Pleasure.
This
Awesome.
this has been a pleasure. Yeah, both of you. It's been a complete pleasure, Steve. I always say there's a reason why we have you on the show, and for many reasons, but I just think the universe brought us together, and just so appreciated your time. And I've wrote more notes down and quotes that you've said that I'm going to definitely enjoy later on as well. And I just want to thank you so much, man. It's been a complete pleasure.
Absolutely,
Really has.
Last part, I promise. If somebody wants to donate time to what you're working on now, right, delivering meals, etc., the one thing I didn't hear is where can they contact you? Where can they find you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
They could email me. I don't know how big your podcast is. I could just tell people my mobile phone number and they could text me.
We'll put what we'll do
on LinkedIn, or we can post this on the.
I'm not that.
Yeah, we'll put it into the podcast. We'll put it into the podcast.
Can we do the GoFundMe tag too? The link to
there's a GoFundMe tag for the meals. If you want to donate to the meals, there's a GoFundMe link. If you want to contact me or you want to look into our operating companies, best place to go would be Room 40, and 40 is spelled so ROOMFORTY.com. My email is steve@room40. And if you want to dig into the book, it's The Urgent Recovery of Hospitality. On Amazon or wherever you get your books.
It's been a pleasure, Steve.
Yeah,
thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you for
thank you
up in the way that you did.
Thank you for hosting our show.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next time, if there is a next time and you have me on,
absolutely.
You come back.
You come back.
I tried to bring like Mystic Sage Steve. The next time I'm on, I'm gonna bring like football ref Steve, and I'm gonna be like, stop talking.
I know. We'll give shot. We'll do Wi-Fi shock collars that you have the button to. We'll mail them to each other.
Yeah.
There we go.
Bless
awesome.
You
well, thanks. Thank you so much.
All right back at you too, brother. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah. Those are deep cuts.
That was deep, eh?
Yeah. I'm slightly embarrassed. I took your beautiful moment and pivoted.
No,
No, but I did. I go, and so how about those tariffs, right? Because I went right to the narrative.
No, that was your safe.
No, I'm a piece of
you
shit.
Went safe.
I suck.
No, it went safe. It doesn't bother me. I'm
but
really like the things that are within arm's reach bother me. Those things don't bother me.
Well, I applaud Steve for calling it out.
But I do have to tell you something I do have to tell you something as we wrap up the show today.
Oh.
I'm gonna tell you something. I wasn't gonna do this, but I didn't want to No, not at all. Not at all. Well, one, we're gonna be at the National Restaurant Association in May.
We're gonna when is that?
Yeah. In May.
And it's 3 football fields, I hear.
No, it's 10, but good try, Dominic. It's May the 17th, long weekend.
May the 17th at McCormick Place in beautiful Chicago, Illinois. At the National Restaurant Association show.
So we're going to be there
live.
We got a lot of stuff, and we're actually going to be hitting the floor too and doing a lot of interviews on the floor.
Hell yeah.
I'm trying to get a surprise for you on that, by the way.
You already got me Bill Oakley. What am I going to do?
I know I got Bill Oakley and stuff joining us.
Is the Star Child coming?
Sorry? No, well, funny, it's a different story. So I want to just, stop that.
This is our longest podcast, by the way. Or not
it's the longest one. Sorry. We'll have to cut it up into 2. We'll do like
two.
Part A, part B. Yeah, you can do that. I do want to mention though, so before I got on the show tonight, I was excited. I read about Steve. I was reading about who he is and stuff. It was just incredible. I was excited about tonight.
How'd you find him?
Huh? I think his agent or someone that works with him reached out, says they like our show. But I do want to say this. So I get an email just before the show. Okay. And I'm not going to say who it is because I might get sued, but a real famous person was on my show once. And I asked them to come back. You probably know who this is. Well, I emailed them and said, hey, we'd like to have them back because we have a different show now. We've been on doing podcasts now for I don't know how many, a year and a half now in this new format. And, we got Beck in Florida, Dom's in Calgary, I'm up here. And we'd just love to have you back on and just celebrate your company, your products, all these other things. I get an email. And the first email was, and this is from their company, I'm not going to say what position because I figured out. It says, no, we didn't get sued. It said, is there an opportunity for them to sell more products through the company that I work for, I'm assuming, by having you on the show? And I always keep those completely separate.
Sure.
Right. So I said, well, no. I said, I'm sure you can tell the people that listen to our shows about the show. But unfortunately, I keep those completely separate, right? For respect for both. And I get an email. So I said that, but we'd be more than happy and everything else. And they can promote it, everything. And, we're big in Canada and we're big in the States, whatever, right? I get an email today. They declined coming on the show.
Oh, no.
Because they said last time it didn't do anything to sales.
Oh.
So if I take anything today, I feel so much better for what Steve has said tonight.
I think that's fantastic context.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
I know. What he said tonight in value creation versus value extraction. Wow. I tell you, it's almost like the universe said, you know what? You got this crappy email. We're going to go and fix it.
Here's the message you need right now.
Yeah. How awesome is that? And I was so mad. I was so mad because I give so much. We all give so much.
Did they actually see the reason why it didn't get enough coverage or increase sales?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole class cup of kiss my ass.
Yeah,
sorry.
exactly.
I know who they are. I'd say that. Like,
so
really? Okay.
So I'm not going to say who it is. I'm not going to say the name. I'm okay. You know what?
I'm not going to cry.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to say your products. your products are going to suck.
You know what?
You just messed with.
Raven dropped that bag.
You just messed with the Beck.
Oh no,
Dominic, and myself.
Oh, I say take higher ground. Enjoy it. The best revenge in any situation is life well lived.
Exactly. But I think tonight, we got introduced to Steve.
Yeah, he's the effing man. That guy is awesome. I love that he called us out. I love that he just it was like
awesome.
One of my favorite. I thought maybe he would have bounced like, you know what, screw these guys. They're out of control. I'm not getting a word in edgewise. But I love that he made our interaction almost satirical, going, okay, you guys go. I'm here.
Yeah. What a special
anytime if you want, right?
Special evening, special show. Yeah. We're gonna put, for everyone else to listen to us, we're gonna put on all of our channels. Google us. You can just Google our late night restaurant show. We're everywhere, and we'll see you in Chicago. And Beck, thank you for being Beck. I wouldn't want a different Beck.
Yeah, I like being Beck on the show, so it's good to be here, becking out.
Becking out,
but back to the future.
Go back yourself.
Go back to yourself. I'll make your back in college.
I like the fact that we wear shirts that I don't.
You know, I found I realized this is going to be actually my thing. I'm going to find a bunch of great video game shirts. I love like all retro. I'm going to do like on the shows. I'm going to do all retro video game shirts. I'm going to get a bunch of them. Like Rev does the cool Hawaiian thing. He's got this.
I have
down to Zach Coates.
I have a retro food shirt on.
Well, old food on your shirt doesn't count as retro food. Just saying.
Well, no, it's not yet. Anyways,
all right.
Jack,
good night,
have a great evening, Dominic. Dominic, we lost you wherever you are. Hopefully,
I'm gonna try to time it perfectly. I got it great last time when you cut. I went, and then the thing.
Hopefully, people are not Yeah.
They're,
Anyways,
they're freaking sleeping. Like, dude, these guys will not shut the fuck
You know
up.
exactly. Anyways, as you go to sleep after this podcast,
They're
please
already
listen to the other shows. Anyways, here we go back. So you want to do the intro or the outro?
I
as they
did
call
it. Oh, that.